Hello, everyone. You're listening to Game Rivals, a podcast where a Nintendo fan and a PlayStation fan talk about the latest games and happenings in the gaming community and industry. I'm one of your hosts, Maximilian X, and together with Sean Templar, we bring you this bi-weekly podcast about video games. All right, and welcome back to the official day one of E3 coverage. I'm your host, Maximilian X. Welcome to the Game Rivals. I'm hosting this again with my pal Sean Templar. Sean Templar, say hi to the lovely people.
Hello, lovely people.
So, day one. It's officially day one now.
Yes.
But we're still gonna cover stuff from day zero a little bit in this episode, which is the Ubisoft uh, press conference. In the second segment, we'll be talking about Square Enix, and in the third and final segment, we'll be dabbling a bit about Nintendo's Nintendo Direct for E3. So let's get this started. Sean Templar, what did you think of the games that were announced at Ubisoft?
I uh I got one of the games that I had predicted in our pre-3 episode was one of the show openers, Watch Dogs Legion, as Ubisoft
Really?
announced it.
I was actually skeptical about that because I wasn't sure if Watch Dogs 2 actually sold well enough. But yeah, you ended up being right on that one.
I'm happy that the game is coming out. It's set in London in a future setting, not like a super future setting, but in a moderner setting than we're in right now. And the it looks like this private military company slash security company has gotten a lot more control compared to the government. And there's no, for example, I didn't really see like police officers on the street. There were these security firms on the street, and the whole mechanic of the game is that from what I could see, there's no main character that you play with. You can play with anyone. You can recruit anyone into the city, into your cause, because you are kind of building a resistance. And the people you recruit have special abilities and special roles, like a spy or an enforcer or a hacker. Um, it looked like a really cool mechanic. The game looks pretty as well. It sounds really
Yes, it
ambitious, and
does.
I'm kind of worried that Ubi might not be able to deliver on it because Ubi is doing a lot of overpromise, underdeliver this generation. So it's gonna fall. It's gonna survive or die with them being able to pull the mechanic off.
Yeah. I thought it looked really awesome. Just from the get go, it looked different because you start. It started. The demo was interesting because it started out with this random guy just walking about scanning people, and then he sees this guy being brutalized by the Gestapo. I mean, by this peace officer who was trying to detain this guy. Tries to save him, puts on a weird clown mask or something, or a skull mask or something, and just tries to get the guy rescued, and eventually he ends up dying, which, as in permadeath, is in this game. This character just straight up is dead, and suddenly you get this board of people that you can choose to play next, and whoever was playing that demo picked an old lady who was a retired hacker who used to work for the police, and that part was just awesome to me because it's an old lady who used to be a hacker who's now retired but is now recruited by this resistance group to work for them, and she just infiltrates the police station, gets the information where the kid's being held, and then relays it to another person, and then you play as this other person who can infiltrate and save the kid, and she does. And they go to this safe location, which is a bar, and the kid even asks the girl what happened to the guy that tried to save me, and she gives this sad sigh and tells the kid that he died trying to save him. And then the kid's like, "Yo, I gotta join this guys, man. This dude, man, this stranger had my back, tried to save my life, end up dying in the process to get me out. I gotta do this, man. I gotta join the resistance." And that was so cool to see that interaction.
Definitely, yeah.
I'm kind of curious what would have happened. I'm assuming that if he had lived, she would have probably said, "Oh, yeah, he's alive, and you can meet him later." And he'd probably be like, "Okay, yeah, cool."
It's interesting to see what direction it will take because inadvertently you will get these choice situations. It's kind of like what happens in a Mass Effect game that you might not get certain scenarios or certain endings. So it's curious to see what's going to happen there. The only concern I have with a game like this is that because there's no main character you play with, it can create a disconnect. 'Cause generally, when you have a main character, you kind of connect with the character, or you level with the character. You feel for the guy, or empathize for the guy, or whatever. There is a connection between you, the player, and the character in the game. And since there seems to be no main character in the game, that connection is difficult to make because if you get too attached to someone, you might somebody get else, and you know that's something that worries me, that the story might not have that great of an impact because you're just people could become a number instead of you actually feeling a connection with the character. But we'll have to wait and see what Yubi does with that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that to a certain extent, but I here's the thing. I don't think you're supposed to be like, "Oh, I am this character." I think you're more supposed to be the overseer of the game because there is this overseer character that talks to all these other agents. And I think that's supposed to be you. And the only thing that you're doing on top of that is that you're following the character that you're giving orders to do something to fruition. Whether they live or die during that mission that you give them, you're following them from that point onward until they complete their mission and the mission shifts to the next character. So I think the whole thing is that you're supposed to be like this overall overseer,
Did you know
you
that the
know?
overseer is an AI?
So you're supposed to be an AI. So what?
I don't think you're supposed to be the overseer. I think the overseer is there to guide you because there is no main character, and it's more as the overseers provide is pushing you in the right direction.
I guess. I mean, it's not like we haven't seen a similar kind of tactic before. I mean, one of the drivers had a similar tactic. I think it was Driver San Francisco. I think that was the one where the main character was in a coma and you could jump in and out of other people's bodies and take it over and do missions that way.
Yeah, I can remember
So
something like
it's
that.
so it's kind of like that, but you're now actually controlling those people and not, you know, jacking their bodies,
Yeah,
which was
it's an
weird. But
interesting concept, and Ubisoft has already given a launch date for it. I believe it's coming out in March next year.
hmm
So it's gonna happen fast. So I think we'll see more Gamescom, and we'll just have to wait and see.
yeah, and I think they said it was playable at E3, so there'll probably be more coverage throughout the week. So if we hear about anything new or see about anything new, we'll be sure to report on it. But yeah, from the initial gameplay featurette that they showed, not bad. Good start to the press event.
Definitely.
And then it took a turn for the weird, and then it got dragged out um, because they announced this weird thing that they're doing on Apple Plus. Yeah, like a
It's
show or
a
something.
game TV show, kind of The Office
But
meets game development,
yeah,
and it's called
I
Mythic
think
Quest.
more. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's a TV show
I
that's
don't know.
coming out on Apple TV Plus. So why
Yeah,
is Ubisoft is this being mentioned at the Ubisoft press conference besides Ubisoft working with them to produce it or something like that?
I don't know. I haven't yet to find an answer on that. I'm pretty sure there's an article on it as to why it was at Ubisoft's press event, but
Yeah,
I, for the love of me, couldn't figure out why it was there in the moment. So let's just move
yeah,
on to the next thing.
yeah. I just wrote some stuff down that stood out for me. So another thing that stood out for
Yeah,
me was
because
Ghost Recon.
the again another game that they could have showed gameplay of, but didn't. I mean,
Yeah,
they had the main villain there, the actor portraying the main villain there with his dog, by the way, which actually was kind of cool because the dog was well trained.
definitely.
He told her to lie down, and he just lied down.
Yeah. Yeah, what the cool part about John Bernthal being there is that he is the main villain in this Ghost Recon game. And he kind of did like a speech slash a monologue there, and he kind of um, told his story or his side of the story. And then they showed a trailer in which his character does that in game, and it's cool to
Yeah,
see that it was convincing. It was cool to see that normally with these kinds of games there's always a good guy and a bad guy, and you always want to pick the side of the good guy because they're the good guys. But with the way he held his speech and showed his side of the story, it really I empathized with him. I really thought, hey, it would be so much cooler if I could play with your faction, the wolves, instead of the ghosts, because that would be so much cooler. I want to believe your story. I want to be able to pick your side instead of just play with the ghosts and always be for the good guys.
true, I guess, but then again, you actually played Wildlands, so I guess it would have it would have a bigger impact on you on that front. But for me, it was more okay. That's great and all that you're doing that, and it's good that you're actually putting effort in the story of your games. But just show me the game. I want to see what makes this game better and different from the previous game.
That's kind of
You
what they
know,
did with the
convince.
reveal. Didn't I don't know if you watched a lot of the footage there, but that's kind of what they did with the game reveal a few weeks back.
Yeah, but it was all CG.
No, no, no. They showed a playable. There was a part in which the character plays, and that's actual gameplay footage.
Yeah, but it wasn't that long either.
It was let me put it this way: it was long enough to show a few of the mechanics off, such as the camouflage mechanic that you can lie in the dirt and cover yourself in dirt, so you're camouflaged within your surroundings, or the buddy aid that when your buddy gets shot, you can drag their bodies with you, or when you get hurt, that if you get shot in the leg, you can sprint. If you're shot in the arm, you can ADS. So they did show a few things around the mechanics there, and of course, with an E3, you expect them to show more, but maybe they'll just do it on the E3 floor.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, because they said I think they did. I think he did say that it was going to be on the show floor. So I guess we'll just have to wait until then to see more of the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that that was basically it for for Breakpoint. Um, they showed more of the Division Two, by the way.
Oh, that was so cool.
Well, they announced more of the Division Two, and then so the CG trailer of one of the episodes that they announced, which I assume was a very poignant story related one.
Yeah, so what they did is they showed or they explained what the three episodes going to hold because there's going to be three content episodes. They're all going to be free. And then what's going to happen is that the first episode will take place outside of the city. So it'll be in kind of a jungle environment, and you'll be
Hmm.
facing off against a traitor, they said. If you've played the Division 2, you know who that traitor is. And then
It's Schmiegel, isn't it?
no, they tricked us, Master. Um, in the second episode, you're gonna head towards the Pentagon because there's stuff happening in
Hmm.
the Pentagon, and you're gonna try to prevent that. I believe also that the second raid will come out with episode 2, and then
Yeah,
in
that's
the
what they said.
fall, I believe we're gonna get episode 3, and episode 3 has a focus on a manhunt. And if people played the Division 1, they will know what that means because Episode 3 will take place in New York, and we don't know if it's the whole of New York or a part of New York. But basically, what will happen is you're gonna try to hunt the bad guy from Division One because he's apparently the most dangerous human being alive. And again, if you played the Division One, you know what that means.
So the bad guy from the Division One survived the game.
Yeah, and he did some worse. He did some bad stuff. The tricky part is yeah, I don't want to spoil it for people, but it's kind of cool to see that they're reaching back to the Division One. Because while I played Division Two the whole game, I was wondering where is Aaron Keener, who was the bad guy from the first one, and it's cool to see that they're answering that call with Episode Three.
All right, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
um, there was also some funny stuff around Rainbow Six Quarantine.
Yeah, what was up with that? So
Yeah,
then, well, let's go back a little bit because they first announced the latest season coming for Rainbow Six Siege,
yeah.
and then they announced a new Rainbow Six game
Yeah,
that they're also going to be supporting for years to come, which is what they said.
yeah,
We'll see how that goes. But this one, instead of being PvP, is PvE.
yes,
It's a three-player PvE,
yeah.
no
It's a
less.
co-op game.
And yeah, and the whole fact that it's called quarantine, and I told you this when we were actually watching the event. That I cannot take it when I see that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
The
but
whole infection thing makes my skin
I
crawl.
don't. I was confused because it was CG trailer, and the thing that kind of
Yeah, it was a
confused
CG
me
trailer. Yeah.
was that it looked like a horror game with like monsters or whatever, or you would see shadows, and then it would like it would. The trailer was intended to kind of freak you out. And Rainbow Six is a game that is grounded in reality. I mean, all the Tom Clancy games are grounded in reality. So the idea I got from it is okay, this looks kind of like a Left 4 Dead kind of game. And I don't hope it's
Ah,
going to be that. Let me put it this way, I got the kind of zombie vibe from it. And I think that's not something Rainbow Six is supposed to do unless Ubisoft wants to go in that direction. But
well,
yeah, I don't know.
but I think what we were seeing was the perspective because the whole perspective was first person, and the first person perspective was from the guy being infected. So
Yes.
I think it's the infection that's causing hallucinations that in that person.
If that's the
That's
case,
what I'm
I'm
thinking.
content with it. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but yeah, as you said, it's more grounded in reality. I mean, again, it was a CG trailer that was mimicking. I would help to think that it was mimicking gameplay, but yeah, I think we need to just check check the E3 coverage about this game and see what more we can find out about it. But it looked freaky indeed. Looked really freaky.
Me no likey freaky.
Yeah, there were some other stuff in there, but we're gonna skip it. Like the middle part of that whole press
Oh, by
conference
the
was kind of
way, for the Division Two, they
a.
announced the Division Two movie is coming out, and they've
Oh
partnered with
yeah,
Netflix to do it. And Jake Gyllenhaal and Jessica Chastain are going to star in the movie. That's something I forgot to mention.
yeah. Forgot about that one completely because
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I think
We'll
it can be
see.
cool.
Everything is getting a gosh darn Netflix movie.
Yeah,
And honestly, I'm not sure if you want to trust Netflix with a project like this, considering that their anime movies are kind of trash.
yeah. I think this is
But
going to be a live action
sure.
movie, kind of like I forgot the name. The movie they did with Ben Affleck a while back that came out in March or in April. This
Hmm.
this Three Kings kind of movie. If it's gonna be
Was it
that
any
style,
good?
I'm okay. Yeah, I liked it.
Was it directed by him? Was it directed by Ben Affleck?
I don't think
Because
so.
that would be the only reason that would actually make any sense
I don't
to me,
think it was directed
anyway.
by Ben Affleck. But let me just double check that, and I can also check the name. Um,
Yeah.
while we're
Well, while you're checking that, let's go on to the next game on the list here, which is For Honor getting a limited time event, which again they showed with the CG trailer. So I'm not really sure what was going on there. Saw some weird kind of possession things
I
kind of
think there
going
was
on with
a.
some
I
weird
think that was an
Japanese
in-game trailer,
ghost
by the
things.
way.
That was in game.
I think that was in-game because the For Honor looks really nice.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, the
Could have
movie
sworn
is
that was in
called
game.
Triple Frontier, and it's not directed by himself.
Wow. Really? Okay.
Yeah, but
I'll have to
Oscar
look at
Isaac is playing in it as well, who plays Poe Dameron in Star Wars, and
that. Hmm.
Charlie Hunnam plays in it, who I always keep mixing him up. But one of the guys who plays in it was the lead in Tron Legacy, and the other guy that plays in it was the lead in Narcos season 1 and 2, the white guy with the mustache.
Ah. Okay.
So it's a
All
pretty
right.
famous cast.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, if they can pull that off, then it would be probably the first time a yeah a what would I say
I
that?
said it this the other
Um.
week. For example, Assassin's Creed, the movie, I didn't think it was
Yeah.
that bad. It could have definitely been better, but it wasn't that bad.
Okay. I mean, I haven't seen that movie
Oh, I
because
expected
I
worse
just
going
haven't
into that
played it.
movie, and
But
I thought it was okay.
yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Well, we'll see. We'll see when that time comes.
yeah.
Um. But yeah, the For Honor thing looked really weird. Did you get what that event was about?
It's something around this ancient temple with the samurai, and then there's this character everybody tries to beat, and that character possesses something or is like this mythical character, and it's unbeatable. And the trailer was kind of vague around it. It looked kind of spooky. It's a limited time event that's coming to the to For Honor. I did play For Honor on the PlayStation, and it's a fun game, but it's kind of hard to master because the mechanics is it's you have to take time to get the master the game.
Yeah, I think that's the point. Did Was it this game or was it For Honor? Or was it some other game? I saw a recent article. I think it was For Honor. I saw an article a while back on Kotaku that two players had mastered the game's mechanics so well that they could wipe the floor with any other player with their bare hands.
Uh oh.
I'm not 100% sure if it was For Honor or some other weapon combat style game like For Honor, but I'm pretty sure it was.
Maybe it's
With
Absolver.
I don't know. I'll have to look it up later, and if need be, we'll bring it up. But
Cool.
yeah, that was freaky. So yeah, For Honor has apparently a very good player base,
Yeah,
a very dedicated
it's one
one.
of those games that Ubi brought out, they dropped the ball, and they fixed it, and they made it amazing in the post-launch process by bringing out amazing stuff like adding dedicated servers and stuff like that. But it's one of those situations in which I've said multiple times, Ubi knows how to do a live service. They just kind of drop the ball when it comes out, and they fix it afterwards.
Yeah, that's true. So, do you want to talk about the last game on this list before I move on?
Don't you want to talk about Just Dance and it coming to the
No,
Wii?
no. It's Just Dance. You know what it is. We're moving on from that.
They also showed a rollerblade game, a multiplayer roller skate game. I have no idea why they did that.
Yeah, I was gonna check it out today, but I ran into some other things that I was trying to do that I couldn't get to. So I'll check it out somewhere in this week. I think it's gonna be up for I think the rest of the month, the beta. So kind of curious to see how that goes.
Yeah, that's a funny thing that I mentioned it to you yesterday. They're going to do a technical alpha. Why would you do it on a PC? This is one of those games where I would think that it's best played with a controller instead of on a PC.
Because Uplay is not available on Xbox or on PlayStation, because
Yeah,
they're
but you
doing
can
it
still
via
do
Uplay.
alphas on PlayStation and on Xbox. There are developers who've done it, but they probably want to control
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean,
Talking,
they did the beta thing for the Division 2, so but
yeah,
that was closer to launch.
talking about Uplay, they kind of came up with their own Origin Access stuff, Uplay Plus. Um,
Yeah.
I'm starting to get streaming slash subscription service fatigue because it's what, the second
No
one
kidding.
already
Oh boy.
besides what, Orion, or I'm just gonna say it's all the same to me. If you have a subscription service or you have a streaming service, you know.
Again, Orion was not a subscription service,
No,
but
okay, but
sure.
it feels the same. It's another service I can subscribe to. And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not ready for that. And they said it's 100 plus games. It will be available on Stadia. Whoop de doo.
And it costs $15 a month.
It costs $15 a month. So let me
So
just do a
why would
quick
you
math.
do this and also get a Stadia Pro? You know what? I don't want to get into this
But no,
discussion because I think
let's
it will become
indulge.
negative about
So
it. Yeah.
I have a
All right. Sure.
PlayStation. So I get my
Yeah.
PS Plus, which costs me $5 a month.
Yeah.
Roughly. I have a PC, so say I get Origin Access, which is 15, so it's $20 a month. I get the Ubisoft service, which is $15, which is 35. I get
Which is also PC only, by the
Yeah,
way.
I get Stadia because I can't play the Ubisoft Plus without Stadia, at least if I don't have a good PC. So that's another $15.
Hmm.
So I'm at what, 60 now?
Hmm.
And then if I want to go overboard,
That's not even counting stuff like PlayStation Now.
yeah, so if I want PlayStation Now, that's an additional 10 or $15. And if I want Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, that's an additional $15. So I'm gonna spend almost $100 because definitely other publishers will come up with their own streaming service or subscription service. Or maybe I also need to pay for xCloud because that's not in my Ultimate Game Pass. So I'm gonna pay $100 on subscription services a month to be able to play all those games. Hell no.
Have they said that XCloud would XPlay XCloud would be its own subscription? Because they could do the like if they did the smart thing, they would have an option to have XCloud be a part of that ultimate bundle that they just announced.
Or give me the choice and say, if you have an Xbox, you can use the own console streaming for free because you already have the box in house, and we'll give you the software for free. And if you don't have it, we can provide you with the service for $10 a month. Or if you want Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, we'll charge you $20 and then you have it all. If they do something like that, they'll nail it. If they'll charge you a separate fee for it, I honestly don't know.
Yeah, so I something that we actually overlooked yesterday with the Microsoft press event when we were talking about the xCloud thing. They were also talking about the whole that you're turning your console into your own server. That's free.
Have they confirmed that?
You don't. Yeah, that is free.
Okay, that's good.
Because I checked some other reactions and stuff about that and some articles, and they said that that option is free if you wanted to do the streaming stuff without, if you don't have, like, for example, an Xbox 360, the xCloud stuff specifically, that you have to pay for. But I don't think they actually mentioned anything around the payment around xCloud just yet. But the console server thing, that's free as long as you own the games, of course.
That's nice.
Yeah, that is nice.
Maybe I'll finally start using
So,
my Xbox.
wait, you have an Xbox?
Don't you know that I have an Xbox One?
No, I did not.
I bought it as an impulse because I really wanted to play Forza Horizon 3.
You with your impulses.
Yeah, and no, but you know the funny part? It's not even me. It's so a friend of mine, he talked about Forza Horizon 3 and he said, "Oh, it's so awesome, blah 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 blah." I'm like, let me show it to me." And I saw it in a video. I'm like, "Okay, this looks fun." And then for weeks he said, "Oh, I don't know if you should buy an Xbox." And then I saw an Xbox plus Horizon, or Xbox One S plus Horizon 3 for 189 euros. So I said to the guy, "If you'll buy one, I'll buy one." And before I
Hmm.
know it, I bought one. I got it.
Bro.
I played a bit of Forza Horizon 3. I played and finished Rome Rise Son of Rome because that's a game that I really wanted to play. Uh,
Hmm.
I got Xbox Game Pass for a month and I never used it, and then I turned it off. Or did I? I don't know. I have to check that.
He's been paying Microsoft free money for years,
I'm
man.
balls deep in subscription services. So I'm paying a lot of subscription services I don't use. I paid for EA Access for months, whereas I only bought it initially to play Battlefield a week earlier, and I had already pre-purchased Battlefield for the PC. Um,
Oh my
but
god.
yeah, if XCloud comes out, I might be able to finally use it, and I'll be playing Xbox stuff on the go.
Yeah. And then you can add Uplay to that. I will say this though, I did sign up for the free month just to see what it's like. So I would recommend you do that too, since it's coming out in September.
For Uplay.
Um, for Uplay, just to see what it's like and
Yeah.
if how effective it is. And I'm pretty sure in September there's gonna be a bunch of Ubisoft games out by then anyway, so we can try those out while that is happening. So,
Maybe we can do it in November when Stadia comes out, and we can double check how it works.
yeah. So the last thing on our list was a game that I don't think anybody was expecting, called Gods and Monsters, which is made by the um,
Assassin's Creed
Assassin's Creed
Odyssey.
Odyssey team.
Yeah,
Yeah, which looks really cool.
yeah. It
Has this stylized feel, kind of looks like Breath of the Wild meets Jason and the Argonauts.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's set in Greece, of course, because of course it is. But yeah, it looked really cool. I'm really dying to see some gameplay footage from that.
It's gonna come out in February, which is pretty soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a 2020 title. It's
because
what 7 8 months away.
the Odyssey team wrapped up Odyssey last year. So, and we were talking about this
And
yesterday.
well,
It,
yeah,
it's that Ubisoft has, I know for Assassin's Creed, and I still don't know if they do it right now, but at times there are 12 studios in different time zones working on, for example, an Assassin's Creed game. That's kind of the way they were able to churn them out so fast.
yeah,
And what they're doing now is they take one studio who takes the lead on the game, and they work on the game for a minimum of 2 years at least, and they get support from different studios from Ubisoft that do certain mechanics. So, for example, the water in Assassin's Creed Black Flag, for example, the sailing mechanic, and also in Origins and in Odyssey, the boat mechanics, that was done by, I believe, Ubisoft Singapore. And out of that came Skull and Bones, which they didn't show at this E3, but which is basically a huge ass pirate game.
hmm,
So they have different studios doing multiple things. They do the same thing with the Division, but on a smaller scale.
yeah. I mean, it looks cool. I'm curious to see how it plays. Um, overall, I don't know. Overall, I'd give the games aside that I'm actually looking forward to. I would give the overall presentation maybe a 7.
Yeah, I'm thinking about a 7 to 7.5. The games they have are fun games to look forward to. It's just that it's nothing to look forward to this year.
And not and they and of most of them, with the exception of Legion, they barely showed any gameplay, if at all.
Yeah, the only games I really want to play this year is Division and Ghost Recon, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to the Division stuff, but yeah, I mean, we can always try the Ghost Recon stuff later in the year too.
Yeah, definitely. It's all co-op, so
Um, yeah, yeah. Wow, it is all co-op, isn't it? Huh. Right. So let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about Square Enix.
yeah. Alrighty, welcome back to our second segment of E3 Day 1 slash Day 0.
Whoop whoop.
Um, we're going to talk about Square Enix in a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but a small press conference that happened yesterday as well was the AMD press conference. Um,
Breaking news. Beep, 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 beep. Breaking news.
so AMD basically announced um, the first Navi GPU that's actually going to come out because we know that the PlayStation whatever it's going to be called, and the Xbox Scarlet or Project Scarlet are going to run on Navi GPUs, but AMD is
Hmm.
bringing out the Navi GPUs to PC first, and that's going to happen on July 7th. And
Yeah.
they're going to call it the
Oh,
RX.
that's soon.
Yeah, that's in a couple of weeks. And they're going to call it the RX 5700 XT and the RX 5700. And
Hmm.
they're aimed to compete with the NVIDIA RTX 2070 and 2060. So they are aiming at a affordable segment instead of going to compete with the 2080 and the 2080 Ti. Um,
Yeah.
the AMD is positioning the GPU as the best GPU for 1440p gaming, and it is also
Oh,
a
cool.
GPU that supports PCIe 4.0. Though there's not actually a motherboard available, I think, as of yet that kind of has that. Maybe not mainstream motherboards. Um, is the GPUs do not have hardware ray tracing support. That's something the RTX graphic cards do have, but these consoles, graphics cards will be able to support ray tracing. I think through, for example, the direct ray tracing from Microsoft.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. They said that they will be introducing the hardware for ray tracing in upcoming GPUs. I think those might be the higher segment GPUs. They've also announced pricing, and pricing is $449 for the 5700 XT. So that's the 2070 competitor, and
Hmm.
the 5700 RX is $379.
Okay. Wow,
Uh,
that doesn't seem too bad.
yeah, and in some cases, for example, the RX 5700 XT is performing a bit better than the 2070 from Nvidia. So, yeah, if you want that, I honestly I have a Nvidia GPU. I've always chosen Nvidia because generally in they do produce better GPUs. It's just that they charge a premium for it, but then you do get the
No
best stuff for
kidding.
it. Yeah, so if you want the same performance but you want it a bit cheaper, um, this is I think a GPU to go for, even though they're similarly priced as a 2070 in that range. But who knows what will happen when they eventually come out. The
Okay.
second
Cool.
thing they announced was the a new Ryzen processor specifically aimed at gaming. It is a 16 core processor running at 3.5 gigahertz. You can turbo boost it to 4.7 gigahertz. Um, it's world's first 16 core gaming CPU, as AMD calls it. It's going to be available in September. Um,
It's a right. The Ryzen.
it's the Ryzen 3 architecture, I think.
Okay, so it's not the one that they announced a couple of weeks ago. The
Here
Ryzen
it says,
9.
yeah, it says AMD Ryzen 9, and then it's the 3950X. To be honest, I'm not really. I also use Intel CPU, so I know that AMD has certain benefits. They always have more cores, but the processor names don't really say something. I generally know like Core i7, i5, Ivy Bridge, Sandy
Yeah.
Bridge, stuff like that. That I know. As for AMD, it's I don't know. Um, Pricing for the 16 core is $749. They also have other CPUs with lesser cores, which are also aimed at gaming, which of course are a bit more affordable. But yeah, then again, I don't know what you would want to do with a 16 core gaming CPU because games don't use 16 cores.
I think they're trying to future proof.
I hope so. I think so, but
I mean, and assuming that, because we know that Microsoft is working with AMD on their custom chip, assuming that it's using a similar kind of architecture to run processes on Project Scarlet, one would assume that those systems would also probably be using either at least an 8 core or a 16 core.
uh, yeah, yeah, definitely. It's just that when you're console developing, you optimize your hardware because You only have that. Whereas when you're doing games on a PC, there's a wide variety of CPUs. So yeah, I don't.
It could also be trying to clear the overhead from other programs that might be running on your PC.
Yeah, yeah, because what the feeling I get with this is, okay, if they're trying to future-proof it, why would I buy this instead of just wait a few more years and then buy a cheaper variant of this CPU? Because then the technology is A, affordable, and B, the games will actually utilize it instead of it almost feels like I'm buying an 8K TV, but we don't have any 8K content. So in 5 years, hopefully we'll have 8K content and then I'll be able to enjoy the glorious 8K. But until that time, I'm paying an 8K premium to get an 8K TV, which I can't use in 8K. That's a lot of 8Ks.
Yeah, that is a lot of case.
Yeah. Anyways, that's AMD. Now over back to you in the studio for Square Enix.
Yeah, thanks, Sean Templar. So yeah, Square Enix. I will say that I saw this in the morning because I didn't stay up to watch it because, well, I that's just insane. Um, but yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. Now, full disclosure, and I'm sure that you guys already are aware of this, but if you're not, if you're new, first of all, welcome. Thank you for listening to Game Rivals. I hope you continue to listen to us. And secondly, um, I love JRPGs. I am an avid JRPG fan. I love all the tropes, even the ones that are tired, but I love them because they are the tropes that I grew up with.
I
Now,
do not like JRPGs.
that being said, to me, this was a reasonably more appealing production. Like the overall production was well way better than Bethesda, leaps and bounds by Bethesda, and it was a tighter flow than Ubisoft, even though it kind of tanked in the middle. But the overall presentation and everything and the games that were announced were appealing to me. So I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna say I enjoyed it immensely because we're gonna talk about the third segment. Um, and if you've already heard part one of our coverage yesterday, you know that we were also going stark raving mad for Microsoft, which was something that I did not expect me to do. But yeah, Square Enix, the first, and this was, I thought, because I thought it was going to be a digital thing, it ended up being an actual press event for about an hour or so. Um, and it was, yeah, it was a proper press event. They didn't have a lot of talking, and when they did, they, for the most part, backed it up with stuff. And of course, the first thing they showed was the Final Fantasy VII remake, which looks really good. It's a very, very pretty game. And yeah, it kind of makes me glad that I own a PlayStation 4 so I can at least play it on that because we know that they're not going to bring it to the Switch.
What? Nani? Am
Well,
I
that
hearing you
and
say I'm glad I own a PlayStation 4?
oh, hush you.
I have never heard you say those words. Oh my god. I'm gonna grab a soundbite from this recording and I'm just gonna save that in my phone. Can I? Oh, so I can always play it to you. Like, hey, did you what that guy said?
Yeah,
Let me just play that for you. You're gonna hear
yeah.
that
Too bad that
to
I'm the one
infinity.
that edits these episodes. So good luck getting that.
Oh, where there's a will, there's a way, my friend.
Yeah, but back to the course of hand. Final Fantasy VII. So
It looked awesome.
they started. Yes, it looked ridiculously awesome.
Yeah.
To start off, they started off with a gameplay demo of the game. They showed off. They started off by showing off the combat, explaining how the combat works. So basically, how the combat works is as followed: when you when you're in when you during a battle, you it's an active game. So you press a button to attack. Those are your normal attacks. But doing these normal attacks, you build up a meter which is called the ATB meter, and when you have a certain if you have a segment filled, you can use that ATB meter to use either a special attack, or if you have enough magic points and an ATB meter, you can even use certain magic spells depending on if you have that spell equipped or not. So when you do this, it goes into this tactical mode where the game basically does this super slow mo freeze frame thing, and the camera pans around, and it's this matrix kind of thing. So when you're right in the middle of hitting an enemy while you go into this tactical view, it's this really badass looking slow motion scene, which is really slow mo, and you could essentially just put it on there like a screensaver and just look at it for the next 5 minutes.
Does Keanu
It's
Reeves
that
appear
pretty.
somewhere in that moment?
Honestly, at this point, I would not be surprised if he did. But that would not be part of the canon. But they did say that they because of all the horsepower and all the freedom that they have, they are changing stuff here and there about the story to make it more rich. So that's actually nice because Final Fantasy, as awesome as a game as it was still a JRPG and by the numbers for the most part, at least in terms of its story. But yeah, to see them actually flesh it out is kind of interesting. Um, but yeah, the battle mechanics do seem interesting at that. So normal attacks, when you build up enough attack, you fill up your ATB meter. You have multiple segments, and of course, depending on the attack that you use, it uses a certain amount of meter. Um, then they showed off a boss battle, the first boss battle, and they did this thing where they neatly edited um, the boss battle, so it wasn't as long. It wasn't the actual length of the whole boss battle, but it did show the boss battle from start to finish, which during the presentation took I think about 5 minutes or so. So imagine that I'm imagining that the actual battle takes maybe twice as long, but you're constantly doing things. You're constantly attacking, you're switching characters, you're using your A to B meter, you're using your special attacks, you're using magic. Um the characters are constantly bantering during the whole, well, not constantly, they're bantering during key moments during the battle, which is really cool because it gives them a more um not relatable, but it gives the characters more personality, which is again another cool aspect because let's let's get real. I don't know if you can get personality from a Popeye looking character, but that was then and this is now. So they ended that with announcing that the game, and this is something that I haven't seen any reporting on as of yet, so don't take my word on it on this. But you and I, we actually sat down and we actually tried to decipher this as best as we possibly could. So this is very important for the people that are excited for Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming out on two Blu-rays. Now, during the presentation, the translator said that the first game, not first disc, the first game from this project is the Midgar chapter of the game. That's it. It's not the entire story. So those two Blu-rays cover nothing but the Midgar attack and the Midgar escape. Which, yeah, in the first game, that was the first disc of the game. The whole first disc took place on in Midgar, and when you finally escaped from Midgar and left and finally entered the overworld, that's when you switched to disc two. So again, not 100% sure on this, but we are very, very sure of what we heard. It could have been a translator error. It could have not been. We don't know. No outlet has covered this yet because I think people are just way too excited to see Tifa in this. Which, yeah, Tifa looked gorgeous in this trailer. I will admit that, but seriously, do not get distracted by boobs. Um,
Okay.
yeah, the yeah, if that's true, then you're paying $60 for a part of a story which you used to have the complete. You can even buy Final Fantasy VII, the remastered version, on almost any platform that you own for $15, and that has the whole game. And now you're only paying for a chunk of the game for $60, and it has a first class edition. It comes with a whole bunch of stuff, a big ass um, cloud statue that he's riding on his motorcycle. It looks cool, but that whole packet costs more than $300
There's one
for a
thing.
game that's not even complete.
There's one thing I'm wondering. Based on what we've heard and seen, we suspect it's going to be an episodic game. There's nothing available on pricing yet, so we don't know if they're going to charge $60. But say they do that,
Oh, they're gonna charge $60. I'm
yeah.
guaranteed.
If they do
If
that,
they're bringing it out in such a big elaborate way with a deluxe edition and a first class edition, yeah, they're charging 60,
yeah. So they said that the content they have in there is so big, it could be a game of its own.
and it is a game of its own now.
Yeah, yeah. Let me put it this way: Is it I don't. I have never played Final Fantasy VII, so I'm okay with it. I'll see whatever, whatever. But will people accept it because they're getting value for their money? Because they're just getting a shitload of content for $60, or do you think people are gonna freak out because they are gonna have to buy? They're gonna have to spend another $60 just to finish the whole story.
The diehard fans are not gonna care. You'll obviously have the vocal minority, of course, that are going to be upset about it when they realize what it is. But again, unless it was a translator error that happened on stage, which again, no outlet has reported on just yet, um, it could also be that it was an error and the game indeed does take place on only two Blu-rays, and the first disc is Midgar. So please keep that in mind. But if you want, the presentation is on their YouTube page. You can rewatch it there if you want and listen to the translator yourself.
Maybe we should
But
get
that
our
is what I
own
heard.
interpreter to. We know a guy that knows Japanese, so maybe we should have him listen to it and interpret it for us word for word, so we know if the person that interpreted it is correct or if we're maybe mixing it up or something.
I mean, I guess I can get in touch with him and ask him if he watched it himself and agrees with what was said on stage. But yeah, sure.
Just to be sure, because
Yeah,
we wouldn't want
yeah.
to
I
miss the
mean,
ball on
well,
this one or drop the ball on this one.
yeah. I mean, I can also just ask a friend of mine in Japan to go over it if she has the time for it.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but but yeah, it is. It's just that was a really weird revelation. I've been for the past 24 hours. I've been scouring all these articles, but none of them have been talking about it.
Let's just hope
So
it's not what we think, but let's fear it's what we think.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when it gets there. Hopefully, I was wrong, and we made a big stink about nothing. And then that's better, right? Because it's better to make a big stink about nothing than find out that it's actually true.
Yeah.
So yeah. So after that, they announced a bunch of other games. They showed some trailers. Real quickly, they showed a trailer for Life is Strange 2, which is already out, but I'm thinking that they're promoting the next chapter of the game, since that is, of course, an an adventure game, old school point and click adventure game. Um, They showed the trailer for Octopath Traveler, which is already out. They showed a trailer for The Last Remnant.
Yeah, the
Um,
remaster's coming to Switch, right?
for the remaster, the Shadow dropped the same day, which was nice.
Oh, that's nice.
It cost $40, which is okay, I guess. They showed a trailer for Dragon Quest Builders 2, which the guy doing the narration for that was, I don't know what kind of drugs he was on, but I kind of want to try it out because he was super hyper about the game.
I played the demo
Um,
for the first Dragon Quest Builders, and I really liked it. I still want to buy
Me
the
too.
first one just because it's. I wasn't into Minecraft, but this is Minecraft in a fun way, to put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's really in a fun way. Plus, the trailer showed some multiplayer aspects which I don't think the first game
Oh,
had.
that's nice.
So I'm actually kind of looking forward to that. They also showed some DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3, but that was really vague. They showed the trailer for Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age for the Switch, which is the definitive edition. Suck it, Sony PlayStation fanboys.
Blah blah
We are
blah
not. We
blah
may not be getting it first, but we are getting the best.
blah 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 blah.
Um, they showed. Oh, this one was a fun one. They showed the Square Enix music is now streaming on uh, basically any known music streaming platform known to man. There were a bunch of there in the trailer. I was like, wait, what is this? Bleep bleep. What is bleep bleep? This is a music streaming service. Never
That sounds cool.
these weird, these weird streaming services I've never heard of before, but I'm assuming that these are available in other countries, maybe China or something. I have no
I
idea.
want bleep bleep. I don't care about Spotify, Tidal, or Apple Music.
It was
I
Bleep
want
Bleep
bleep
or
bleep.
Blix Blix or something. I don't know, man. It was weird. Um, so they showed that. They showed some of their Square Enix Collective games. That's their indie label. Um, yeah, I mean, it looked interesting enough. Um, they showed a new trailer for Final Fantasy XIV's new expansion, Shadowbringers, which looks pretty dope, adding two new classes. I think one was the dancer, and the other one was I can't remember. I didn't write it down. I think the other was Blue Mage or something. Anyway, moving on from that, they showed two remakes of two games that had never come out in the West. This is their first time coming out. Romancing Saga 3, which was a Super Famicom game, which never came out in the West. Super Famicom, of course, being the Japanese version of the Super Nintendo. And Saga Scarlet Grace Ambitions, which I don't know which system that came out for. Think I think it was Sega Saturn, but I could be wrong. Um, so yeah, those are getting HD remix. Romancing Saga 3 is actually all pixel art, and it looks really good. So I'm actually kind of curious about that one.
Okay.
Um, they showed off a mobile game. I'm not even gonna get into that because I'm not gonna get into that. And then they showed a new IP from the makers of Bulletstorm and what's the other game that they worked on? Gears of War Judgment, called
Possibly.
Outriders. They showed a cinematic trailer. It's obviously a shooter set in a post-apocalyptic world, but it was so vague and there was not a lot of information about it. But it is a game that has single player and co-op in it, so you can play it alone or play it with friends online. Um, and that's the most I honestly could gather from it. I've seen the footage twice. I've seen the dev interview from it twice, and I'm still not 100% sure what it's actually about. I think it was a 2020 title, so hopefully we'll see more of that. But yeah, I honestly not too sure about that game. Hopefully, I mean, considering the pedigree, it'll probably have good shooting mechanics, but we don't know if it's a first person or a third person shooter, let alone. Um, so yeah, I guess we'll just have to look to the future and see what they did say. They did say that they were going to show more stuff at the end of the year, so that might indicate that they'll show maybe a new trailer at the Game Awards or something before that. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. They showed a new trailer for Oninaki, which is an action RPG from the same guys that made I Am Setsuna and Lost Sphere, um, which looked pretty cool. It's an action RPG, so looking forward to that one. And then they dropped another big one, Final Fantasy VIII Remaster, coming to all platforms, which is astounding because the rumor was that Final Fantasy VIII never got a remake on any platform because of licensing issues with the game, specifically music licenses. So I don't know what kind of voodoo they pulled out of, but apparently they were able to resolve that, and now the game gets to be remastered.
I think Final Fantasy VIII's the first Final Fantasy game I played, and I really liked that one. So this was one of those announcements that really got me excited.
Yeah, and you should get more excited because it's coming out this year.
Yeah, I just can't find a release date for it.
No, they didn't announce a release date. They just said 2019.
Nice. I'll be playing that on
Yeah.
my PlayStation 4.
And I will be picking it up maybe. Honestly, personally, my personal favorite of the three PlayStation 1 Final Fantasies was Final Fantasy 9. And, well, apparently the remaster had a bug in it that is not very good. I mean, it's not a game breaking bug or anything, but it is a bug that can hamper your experience. Um, but it seems like they fixed it for Final Fantasy VII on Switch and Xbox. So maybe they fixed it also for Final Fantasy IX. I didn't see any articles on that, but I'll have to check it out later and maybe pick it up. But yeah, Final Fantasy VIII. I was surprised because I honestly thought that if they were going to do something like that, they would probably have to go the remake route so that they didn't have to deal with the song rights. But if they were able to do that now, that's fine.
Maybe they've taken the songs out that have the licensing issue in it.
No, because they're actually an integral part of the game's story.
Ah, okay.
So yeah.
Well, we just have to wait and
And
see.
then yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. And then the last thing, which is the one that people were waiting for, which I know that they were waiting for because I've seen multiple reports that, like I said, the middle dragged a bit too much. So people are getting very impatient for this. But they finally showed off Marvel Avengers for PlayStation and Xbox One. I think, yeah, and it's a original story made by Crystal Dynamics,
And
which
Eidos Montreal.
and Eidos Montreal, and it starts off with this thing called Avengers Day, where they're opening up a new West Coast headquarters in San Francisco, and surprise, surprise, the Golden Gate Bridge gets destroyed because you can't have anything in pop culture set in San Francisco without it getting destroyed unless it's a love story. So it looks interesting. It looks cool. It was mostly CG. I think even the gameplay aspect was emulated in CG.
It said there
But
was a
you had,
gameplay trailer, but it looked too good to be true to be a gameplay trailer.
yeah, I mean, you can say that it's a gameplay trailer and still have it be emulated through CG. Um, I don't know. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Only time will tell. But it looked interesting enough. The story sounds interesting enough because it takes place. Well, you start that game from that point, but then it does a time skip to 5 years later, and basically the whole world blames the Avengers for the event that happened. So the Avengers ended up being disbanded,
Superheroes are banned, I believe, something like that in the trailer.
Yeah, the Avengers specifically, and during the whole event, Captain America either died or went missing. So yeah, it's a bleak world, and now there's a new threat on humanity, and it's time for the Avengers to reassemble, basically.
Yeah. The funny thing is that Nolan North is voicing Iron Man slash Tony Stark, and I thought that was
Yep,
a really fitting character to voice. Troy Baker is in there as well. I just don't know which character he's voicing. And I was talking to you before we started.
he's voicing Bruce Banner slash the Hulk.
Oh, that's nice. I was talking to you
Yeah.
about a big game, and I didn't know which game it was that was going to get a beta on PS4. I just found the
Mm-hmm.
article, and here it says Marvel
Mm-hmm.
Avengers is out on May 15th, 2020, PlayStation 4,
Yep.
Xbox One,
Mm-hmm.
Stadia, and Windows PC. A beta will be available on PS4 for players who pre-order. So this is that game that had the PS4 beta.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
that probably means it's gonna be one of those betas that's close to launch.
I
Oh, that means
don't
that.
know.
All right. Yeah, I totally forgot this game has multiplayer.
Yeah, it also it has co-op, and
It has co-op multiplayer. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
It
cautiously
also has free
excited.
DLC support.
What?
Yeah. What, you didn't hear that part?
I'm surprised by it. That's all.
Yeah, it's free. So basically, the whole point is that they'll be adding more story parts
And
as the game
costumes.
lives on. No, and more abilities and more heroes. So the roster is going to grow as the game moves on.
I hope this game will be able to separate itself from Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
I'm pretty sure that it'll be very easy to distinguish it from it because Marvel Ultimate Alliance already starts off with a ridiculous amount of characters, and it's only going to get more characters. But I'm jumping the gun a bit.
Yeah, it
So
sounds cool. The story sounds cool. Kind of gives me an endgame vibe. So
yeah, yeah, it is that kind of yeah, we got our asses whooped, and there's even a cutscene that they shared of um, Iron Man, so Tony Stark and Bruce Banner talking about how that they lost and they failed the world, and Tony was like, "No, we failed him," obviously referring to Captain America. Um, but yeah, it looks interesting. I really hope that they deliver. Again, no real gameplay footage shown,
this
so
game's been
hopefully
in the
there
work for
actually
a
is.
couple of years now. So well, it's not a long wait anymore.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I'm not sure if they said that they would show anything on the show floor. Hopefully, they do. If not, well, we still have a whole year to wait for the game to come out, so we'll probably see more of it as time goes along, anyways.
True.
All right. Do you have any other questions or remarks about Square Enix
How would
before
you
we move
rate
on?
them?
Right. How would I rate this one? From a completely presentation standpoint, I would probably give them an 8. For the games they announced, I would probably give them a 7, which would round it off to a 7.5.
I would expect it to be the other way around since you're a big JRPG fan.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, the games that they announced were awesome. They were awesome games. It's just that there were also a bunch of games that I honestly did not care about, or there were games that we already knew that was coming out anyway, so great, but did not need to know about it. And some even getting some kind of disappointing news, like with um, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles also coming to smartphones, which means that the remaster is not going to look as good as it could have been
Yeah,
because they have to factor in weaker
mobile is the future.
platforms. Sure. All right, let's move on to the next segment, and we'll see you guys in a little bit. All right, we're back with the final segment of this episode, in which we will be talking about the Nintendo Direct. Sean Templar, have you been able to at least see or hear of any of the announcements that were made?
I had a mix up in the time because I'm in a different time zone, so I wasn't able to check the direct. But what I've done is I've caught up a little bit in the meanwhile, so I do kind of know what we're talking about.
Okay, caught up in a different time
But
zone. That
I
just
think it's
reminds me of
best
rock and
if you
roll
just
lately.
walk us through it.
Sure. I'm just gonna go through it Cliff Notes version, and I'm just gonna emphasize stuff that really grabbed my attention. I was gonna do a reaction video to this, but I had some technical difficulties which did not allow me to do that. Um, so that's unfortunate because I had some reactions to this. Um, and not just because it's a Nintendo thing, but we'll get into that as we move on. So, the direct started off actually very innocently enough with the first item on the list being, of course, the new DLC character for um, Smash Brothers Ultimate, which was done very well because it started off with Link being attacked by a bunch of shadow clones, the spirit characters from the World of Light single player game, and he was getting his ass handed to him. And then, I kid you not, a knight on a white horse came riding in to save Link's butt, which either has to be one of the most emasculating things that has ever happened to Link since he got rescued by Sheik, which ended up being Zelda, or this really is the most emasculating thing that's ever happened to him. Cool reveal, though, by the way, because it was the Dragon Quest hero from the latest Dragon Quest 11. But in a surprise twist, they showed that it's not just that hero. The hero is four specific heroes. So the one from Dragon Quest 11, the one from Dragon Quest 8, the one from Dragon Quest 5, and the one from the original Dragon Quest. They're basically palette swaps, so it's still one character, but you can choose which of the four heroes you want to be. And those, of course, have color variations, but that is a really cool reveal and a really cool way to include multiple characters by not technically having multiple characters. So yeah, that was a really cool reveal trailer for that.
Did they give an
Other than that,
announcement from when it's coming?
they said summer,
Okay.
so in the next 3 months, which is good because the first DLC got released about a month or so ago. So I'm actually kind of surprised they waited this long. Um. Oh, damn. Okay. So from what I can see, it's not just that. Basically, the hero. So basically, what you normally have is you have a color swap of the character, but every color swap is a different hero from a different game. So I just saw that there's also three other ones that that are basically palette swaps. The hero from, I think, Dragon Quest 6, but I'm not sure. The hero from Dragon Quest 7 and the hero from Dragon Quest 9, which was a DS exclusive. So, yay. Um they showed off Dragon Quest 11 and confirmed an actual release date, even though it said fall of 2019 at the end of the trailer, which was weird. It's coming out September 27th, 2019, which is not that far away. Then they showed some gameplay from Luigi's Mansion 3, which was really cool. They showed the new Poltergust and what abilities it had. It showed how you can now slam Ghost around like your Bam Bam from the Flintstones, with a very satisfying thud and animation to it. It has multiplayer, like like Luigi's Mansion 2 had multiplayer.
So you
But you
can
can also
co-op it or
just use
something, or
you can do couch co-op with it. And it also has a 8 player online multiplayer game where you try and catch as many ghosts as possible, and the one who catches the most ghosts win, and a bunch of other games that are multiplayer online, which is ridiculous. 8 players. They did something similar in Luigi's Mansion 2 with up to 4 players, if I recall. So yeah, that's actually pretty cool. They showed off uh, a tactics game called the Dark Crystal, which is coming to Switch. They showed off some more gameplay footage of of the remake of Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, which just looks charming as all get out. It's just the it's so adorable. It even has a new amiibo coming out, and like the aesthetics is kind of toy like. So it getting the Link getting an amiibo from that actually makes sense because it looks toy like and it looks adorable. And then oh right, before I go on, that actually also got a release date September 20th. So September is going to be busy for a lot of gamers. Seriously, between this and what's coming out in September again? What we had from Ubisoft? Um,
is Ubisoft doing something in September?
wasn't there a game coming out from Ubisoft in
I
September?
think you mean October. Then Ghost Recon Breakpoint's coming out.
What was the other? Or was it a Square Enix game that was coming out in September? I don't know. I know that
Um,
there's a bunch of see, there's too much games already coming out in September. September is too crowded, and then they're adding this as well, and Dragon Quest 11 as well. Why? Why are you doing this to us, man? We don't have the money or the time. Ugh, yeesh. But yeah, after they announced that, as I stated in this previous segment, I am a big fan of JRPGs. Little background information: my favorite RPG of all time is Secret of Mana for the Super Nintendo. It is one of my favorite games. It was my first RPG that I played, and they announced a sequel for that back in the day for the Super Nintendo, which never came out in the West, called Seiken Densetsu 3, which is the Japanese title for the Mana games there, and it never saw a release. And I honestly thought that they would never ever release this game. And then, after Link's Awakening, they showed off a trailer for a remake of that specific game. I cried. I cried. Legit tears, like just of happiness down my eyes. Trails of Mana. It has an official title. It has an official worldwide release coming early 2020, and I just lost it
oh my
because it
god.
was something that because I was like, imagine imagine knowing that, for example, Metal Gear Solid 2 was announced, but it only came out in Japan and there was no official translation for 20 plus years. Wouldn't you go apeshit to finally be able to play that game?
Yeah, but the cry. I mean, come on.
No, because
It's
you
okay,
have
man.
to
It's
imagine
okay.
you have to imagine because I was looking forward to this game as a kid a long time ago and it never came out. And now that it's actually coming out, it's like this like this reimagining. It just I don't know what kind of topsy turvy world we're living in because the remake looks gorgeous compared to the remake that they did for Secret of Mana, which is my favorite game, and they butchered that remake. I think I told you about this before. I actually mentioned it in well, I think one of the earlier episodes of the podcast. I think it was during our year in review podcast, actually. So if you guys haven't listened to that yet, please go back and listen to that one because we talk about a lot of fun things about 2018, including that horrible remake. But yeah, so plus they did not even stop there because they also announced a collection of the first 3 Mana games that was released in Japan back in 2017 when the Switch launched. And we thought that that was never coming out because that included that third Mana game that never got localized. And that too is also localized. So if you want to play Trials of Mana before the remake comes out, you can buy the collection, which has these three games, and play it, which is ridiculous. And they shadow dropped the collection on the same day. So it's out right now.
That's
Just crazy.
well. You know what's
And I'm actually
crazy?
what?
That The Witcher 3 is coming to the Switch.
Crazy, yes. But also the worst kept secret in the industry.
Yeah, but The Witcher 3 ran poorly on PlayStation and on Xbox. I wonder how this is going to perform on the Switch.
I want to know what studio is doing the port. Because depending on the studio, it could either be a surprisingly good port or it could be a surprisingly medium port.
Uh,
So,
I thought
yeah, I mean,
is
I
CD
don't.
Projekt Red not doing it in house?
No, 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 no. Nobody does their ports in house. They either go to one of the many porting developers that port games to the Switch. One of the best ones is Panic Button, which did the Doom 2016 port and Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. They're one of the best in the biz.
Maybe they got those
But
guys.
I don't. But I don't. That's the thing because I don't know if they did because there are other studios that do it. There's one studio called I think Tantalus that did I think one of the Final Fantasy remakes. I think they did the port for Final Fantasy 10, 10 2, and then there's another dev that did Final Fantasy 9 and 7. And you can really and you can kind of tell that they were done by different teams because they had to put in a lot of effort because they didn't get a lot of leeway from Square Enix because of course they tried to cheap out. But yeah, I'm not sure who's doing the thing. I will say this: I wasn't paying attention to the trailer when it was shown because I was still trying to compose myself after Trials of Mana. But yeah, worst kept secret, but still cool to see that it actually is true because there there were so many rumors about it and for months and months that at a certain point either it was going to be true or it was going to be one of the biggest lies out there. So it's nice to see that it ended up being true. For those that are looking forward to it, I'm sure they're gonna pick it up for the Switch. I'm sure there are people out there that don't care that it doesn't look as good as the PlayStation 4 version or the Xbox One version or the PC version. They just want the portability of it. After that, they showed a story trailer for the new Fire Emblem game called Three Houses, which looked really interesting and actually showed conflict for the first time in that game because all the footage that we've and coverage that we've seen so far was that it was a peaceful nation, which would be really weird if you had a game that was just peaceful and not, a sim of any kind. So it's actually nice to see that there eventually will be a conflict there that you have to resolve, and it looked really interesting. Looks really good. They've been polishing the game up more and more and more as it's coming closer to release, which is next month, July 26th. And then they showed the obvious stuff. They showed again a new Resident Evil remake, or well, not a new Resident Evil remake. They showed off the Resident Evil remakes that they just released on Switch. So Resident Evil remake, Resident Evil um, Zero remake, and Resident Evil 4. And then they showed off new Resident Evil remakes for get this Resident Evil 5 and 6.
I get the 5 part, but why in God's name would they do 6?
I I ask Capcom. At this point, I've tried I've tried I've tried and I've just given up on trying to understand the logic that is Capcom when it comes to um Switch ports. It's just these are the most bizarre decisions one can make. I also get 5 because at least 5 is playable. 6 is garbage from what I've heard. I've never played it, but
I
from
only
what
played
I've
the demo
read
and it
and heard people
sucked.
talk about, yeah, that was basically the reaction I got. Oh, yeah. The only other reason I can possibly think of as to why they did it is because they wanted to have all the Resident Evils available on the Nintendo consoles, and considering that Resident Evil 5 never made it to Wii U and 6 never made it to Wii U, they felt that it needed to be ported at least to the Switch as well. I'm not sure if these games are also coming out on other systems, but honestly, it's Capcom. I wouldn't put it past them to earn a little more coin on other systems. So I'm assuming that it's also coming to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. But why 6? But any other game, like Final Fantasy, for Final Fantasy, good grief, that is on my mind, isn't it? Um, Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil Code Veronica have yet to even receive HD remakes. Do those. At least people like those. I think people like those. At least more than gosh darn it, Resident Evil 6. It's just so weird. Anyway, it's coming out sometime 2019. Just weird. Um, what was even more weird was the next reveal trailer, which seemed like some weird Japanese style game, and it turned out it is a weird Japanese style game because it was No More Heroes 3, a sequel to the No More Heroes franchise that people have been wanting for years from Grasshopper Manufacturer and Goichi Suda. So yeah, that was weird. It looked really nice, by the way. I don't know if you've checked out the trailer or some screenshots of it, but it looked really nice.
Not yet.
Um, and it's done in Unreal Engine, so you know that it's solid, and it's coming out in 2020. So there's that. And then they showed off a new Contra game, which looked terrible, called Contra Road Core. I'm not going to talk about it. It's coming out September 24th. To me, it looked unbelievably horrible. So let's move on from that. They also shadow dropped the Contra Collection, which I honestly recommend getting that over this. So yeah, just get Contra Collection on your Switch or whatever system you're on, and just play that because those games are obviously way better than this. Like if you just check out the trailer, it's terrible. Um, and then they showed off a new trailer for Daemon Ex Machina, which is a game that Nintendo is publishing, um, made by which made by Marvelous or co-publishing with Marvelous, um, which is a game that they already announced like I think 2 years ago. It looks cool. I tried the demo earlier this year. It kind of ran bad, so hopefully they've improved on it. It now actually has a release date because that also didn't have a release date before, and this one is coming out September 13th. Good grief, there are so many games coming out in September. All right, moving on before I get swallowed up by all the September releases. Um, they announced another remake, this time from Sega, which is the Panzer Dragoon game. I don't know if you've ever heard of Panzer Dragoon, Sean Templar.
I've heard of it, but I've never actually played the game.
Yeah, so Panzer Dragoon is a on rails shooter that got its start on Saturn. It was one of the better 3D Saturn games, but considering that it was on the Saturn, it was darn right near impossible to port anywhere else because making games for the Saturn, especially a 3D game, was just a ludicrous task to do. So the fact that they were able to pull it off and pull it off good was amazing. And that finally it's getting a remake on Switch, but I think it's also announced for other consoles. So I think it's also coming out for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So that's actually a cool announcement. Then they talked about Pokemon a bit, so I'm gonna skip that. They showed a new trailer for Astral Chain from Platinum Games, which is a awesome looking action adventure game where you're playing one of two twin cops in this post apocalyptic kind of world, this cyberpunky or neon cyberpunky world where the Earth is being invaded by these creatures, and you can capture these creatures to work for you, called Legion, and you're a Legionnaire, and you can do this killer dual combos. There are certain types of legions that you can ride as like these big dogs and something. Looks really cool. Um, the action looks tight, so I can't wait to play it. It's coming out August 30, but that day was already announced, so that's August. They showed off more of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, which looks really cool. They announced an expansion pass for that as well, which introduces more content from Marvel Knights, X Men, and Fantastic Four, which of course they're finally able to do because Disney bought Fox, so Fantastic Four is now on the table. Um, they showed off Cadence of Hyrule, which is of course that indie game that is Crypt of the Necrodancer with Legend of Zelda characters, which is coming out in 2 days. Trailer looks cool. Check it out if you're interested in that. Then they showed off Mario and Sonic at the Tokyo Olympics. They showed off more Dragon Quest stuff and a bunch of other stuff. Wolfenstein Youngblood, all the stuff that we already know about. And then they finally announced that yes, there is a new Animal Crossing coming. No, it's not coming this year as they said. They lied to us. It's coming out in March of 2020. So that's sad. But it looks really nice. I mean, again, I talked about it in one of my what you've been playing a couple of weeks ago that was playing New Leaf on 3DS. And it's just a really nice way to just unwind from a hard day's work and just relax and chill out with a bunch of animals. It seems to have a really cool online feature, but well, they just sold it off in the trailer at the end. So I'm kind of curious to see how that works. Maybe it's um, kind of a semi MMO kind of style thing because you saw a lot of players in the same place just chilling with each other, which that series has never done before. You could go to other people's villages, but that's about it. So I'm kind of curious to see how this works. And then they ended it off with a double whammy. They showed off another character coming to Smash Brothers, which I honestly thought that would never happen before, would never, ever, ever happen. But they're bringing Banjo Kazooie to Smash Ultimate, which is
What?
something that a lot of people, yeah, yeah, exactly. People have been asking for that for a long time, and I was like, you silly gooses,
Can I do
it's
that?
never gonna happen. Apparently, they can because he's coming out this fall. And I have to say, the reveal was pretty hilarious because they again trolled everybody because they were like, "Oh, look, it's a Jiggy floating around," and Donkey Kong is like, "Who's there?" And they're looking out the window, and they see the silhouette of Banjo Kazooie, but it ended up being the Duck Hunt dog with his duck buddy, and then they're laughing at Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong and K. Rool, and then out of the sky, Banjo and Kazooie plop down on their asses and then start wrecking everybody's shit, which is just the reveal is hilarious. I recommend you checking out that trailer for that. It's really funny. But as I said, they landed with a double whammy. That was one. The other was a sequel to a title that I didn't even expect that would even get a sequel, which is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild getting a sequel. And from the looks of it, a dark one at that. Not since Majora's Mask have they done something like this, except for maybe a Link Between Worlds, but that wasn't really dark. But this one seems to be going in that dark direction. So that was the direct.
The trailer looked creepy for that one.
Yeah,
I didn't like that
you
one.
said you, you didn't wait. You didn't like that one,
I don't like the creepy ass stuff. It was really weird, man. With this
man. Just be glad
haunted
they didn't show off
witch.
spiders, man.
Yeah,
Because you know there'd be spiders in there, man.
that's why I'm not gonna play that game. I don't need no comic cell shaded
Uh,
spiders walking at me.
it looked interesting. I mean, Hyrule Castle was about to take a ride, as in like literally the earth split around the whole Hyrule Castle and it slowly was starting to go upwards. I don't know what that's about, but that's freaking creepy. But yeah, Breath of the Wild is getting a sequel next year. Or wait, did they say next year? No, they just said it was in development.
Yeah,
So I assuming that they're using the same assets. I don't think that the turnover time would be that long. But yeah, new Zelda game, new mainline Zelda game, new sequel, which is something that they don't really do that often.
yeah. I'm curious to see what they're gonna do.
Yeah, same here, man. Same here. So that was basically the direct. They had some stinkers in there. I will admit that. Some stuff that I skipped real quick, but again, Resident Evil 6, seriously, what the hell asked for that? Um, yeah, and we already knew about Link's Awakening and about Pokemon, and Contra could really just go somewhere else. And yeah, yeah, sure, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, whatever. Um, but yeah, a lot of cool time, and they're still not done because they're doing the Treehouse live. And knowing them, they'll probably announce a new title somewhere in the coming 3 days during one of those events because they like doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, a lot to look forward to in the near future and in 2020. So yeah, good on them.
Are you happy with the direct?
Well, considering that you could knock me over a feather with just one event, with just the one announcement, yeah, I was pretty happy with the event.
And then now for the most important question: an unbiased, non-fanboy rating of the direct.
Oh no.
It's a
Um
10, because it's
no, it's no, it's not a 10 because again, there were games in there that I just no. Just they just ruined the mood for me. Even thinking about them now, they ruined my mood. But again, if I'm gonna go completely unbiased, I would have okay, so in terms of presentation, the directs tend to be well, let me rephrase this. Whenever they do a digital event for E3, there's always a gimmick to it. This year's gimmick was very simple because they recently got a new president of US, which is Doug Bowser. So they did this little skit at the beginning where the actual Bowser interrupts the direct because he thinks that they meant him, and then the actual Doug Bowser shows up, and him and Kozumi do this little bit where they basically have to explain to Bowser that he's not the one that they mean, but they actually mean Doug Bowser, and then they have to show him off the stage,
wow.
the digital stage. It was cute, but it went on maybe 5 seconds too long.
I have the idea that it's
Five
aimed
ten
at little
seconds too long.
kids.
Well, it's more aimed at the people that like the meme of Doug Bowser because his last name is Bowser and blah blah blah. And this is basically them acknowledging that the meme exists. It was fine. It was harmless. It was maybe a bit too long, but here's the big difference. That was it. There was nothing else. There were no frills. So if I'm gonna look at it from a presentational standpoint, it was a 6 from a presentational standpoint.
Whoa, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, because I've seen. Here's the thing: they've done better digital events for E3. Heck, there was one year where the president of Nintendo Japan, Miyamoto, and the previous president of Nintendo of America, Reggie Fils-Aimé, turned into Star Fox characters that were made by the Jim Henson Company, and they had different skits throughout the event. I will show you the clip later because that was awesome. And there was one time where they asked Robot Chicken to do some skits for them. I don't know if you've seen the show Robot Chicken, but they do these skits with stop motion animation, which is really fun.
I think you mentioned it before.
Yeah, I think I did. But this didn't have that. This was just straight up a Nintendo Direct, as bland as it comes. So, yeah, in terms of presentation, I would give it a 6. In terms of content, I would give it an 8.5. Again, the only reason it's even getting the 8.5, honestly, it would probably be a 7.5 if it wasn't for Trails of Trails of Mana and the Mana collection dropping today. It would get a 7.5 from me in terms of content because the content was good, but most of the content was known. And the stuff that wasn't known is exciting. It is very exciting, and if you're an RPG fan, honestly, now more than ever, there has never been a better time to be an RPG or JRPG fan. Between stuff like The Witcher 3 coming to Switch and the Marvel Ultimate Alliance and the Mana Collection and Dragon Quest 11 coming out, you have a plenty to play. And if you're playing any other kind of game, they got you covered as well. So if I average it out, it comes to, I guess, an 8. I would say, yeah, I think I would give it an 8.
It's not bad, right? I mean, we gave Microsoft an 8.
No, I mean, it's not. No, no, it's not bad. I wasn't sure what they were going to do with the presentation because they said they were going to do a Nintendo Direct instead of what they normally did was a Nintendo digital event. So I hope next year they go back to the digital event format instead of a Nintendo Direct. Nintendo Direct is more delivering games, like just showing gameplay, talking about gameplay, and that's what they did, and that's fine. But for E3, man, you gotta bring your A game, and that was not this year.
If I can touch on something, for
Sure.
example, um, even though I'm a huge Sony fan, Sony is also not one of those companies that nails it every time when it comes to their E3 conference. For example, last year's E3 conference, I didn't like that one bit. From a presentation standpoint, it was really cool because they kind of built locations based around their game. So, for example, with the Last of Us reveal, they did of the gameplay demo. They did kind of like a church because part of the trailer they showed was kind of set in a church, which was from a presentation standpoint was cool. But it was really short. It didn't really have that impact. It really, the games they showed were like, okay, we know about these games. We just want to know more. And it was, I would have given them maybe like an 8 for presentation and a 5 maybe for the games they showed because it wasn't what we wanted. For example, the
Yeah.
E3 they did when they announced the PlayStation 4, that would be a 9. Or the E3 they did when they had the live orchestra, also a 9 for both because that was unique, original, and they showed a lot of cool games. So yeah, I don't
Yeah, true.
yeah,
True.
you can't always have it. Um, Out of all the press conference, I think this one and the Microsoft one were the better ones because we know the Bethesda was the least of all.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, like absolutely no contest.
Yeah, and I've said this before. I think we're at that turning point in the industry in which either publishers or developers are coming up with a direct kind of style because it's easier, it's cheaper, they control the message, they're not overshadowed by oh well, Sony's doing a press conference, we need to nail it, or Microsoft doing the press conference, oh it's a day before ours. You control the narrative, you control the time, and you can do it whenever you want. So that's a benefit. And otherwise, I think
Yeah.
that E3 next year, I don't know it's going to have a big attendance as it is. I mean, Sony's not there, Activision's not there, EA is not there.
No,
Um,
no, 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 no. Sony wasn't there this year.
yeah, okay, but
They have a new console to show, so they'll definitely be there.
yeah, but like it's still like there's a void, there's a gap, and I'm honestly curious if Sony's gonna attend E3 next year. Heck, I'm honestly curious what Sony's gonna do this whole year because they've said we do have some stuff to show and exciting stuff.
State of play.
And yeah, you can use a state of play to cover it, but I think people hope that Sony's going to do a PlayStation event centered around their next gen console. You know, that like what they did with the PS4 review at the time, do an event in February and then launch the console later in the year. Maybe they'll repeat that, but yeah, I think
Yeah,
we're
I
in
mean,
a
they're not gonna do anything around their new console this year. I can tell you
I
that.
think we're at a changing point in which the industry is trying to find new ways to come one engage the fans, but two also have more control over the narrative and bring out a message they control instead of just going to this massive event and maybe not getting the exposure they would want for their game because people are so busy playing all sorts of other stuff or covering all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess time will tell. We'll see when it gets to there, and we'll see if the attendance went up and down or down this year at E3. We'll know all that by the end of the week, or if not, the beginning of next week. So yeah. Also, I also recently today I saw an article. Apparently, there was there's not a whole lot of agreement as of what E3 should be, even inside the organizers themselves, the ESA. There's apparently been some infighting about E3 and stuff, and people wanting to change it, and people not wanting to change it. And who knows, man? Who knows what's gonna happen to E3, man? But as of right now, we have seen a lot of cool games getting announced. We've seen a lot of cool games getting updates on what they are, or finally getting updates on what they are. Um, we still have the rest of the week to cover more, to cover more of the coverage that comes out of E3 and discuss those later in the week. So yeah, I mean, in terms of content, we should be spoiled rotten the rest of the week.
I hope so. Otherwise, we've taken the week off. Like, oh, okay, we could have just taken the evenings off and covered it in that, you know.
Yeah.
uh,
True.
yeah,
Who knows? But this whole thing has been fun doing it anyway. So
definitely.
yeah. All right. So, do you have any other last words before we sign off for today?
I think I'm all good, man. We've digested so much stuff in these past 2 days. My brain's kind
We
of
need
going into
to,
overload right now.
yeah, we need to process this for the next couple of hours, at
Yeah.
least the next day or so. So we'll be back with you guys if we see any more interesting stuff that we want to talk about with another episode this week. And yeah, so thank you guys for listening as far as you did. You can always catch us, as always, on any of your podcast listening apps, be it Apple Podcasts, be it Google Podcasts, be it Spotify, Overcast, or any of the other podcast apps that you might use to listen to podcasts. You can find us, as always, on Twitter at game underscore rifles underscore. You can find me on Twitter at Maximilian. You can always email us at gamerivalsfeedback@gmail.com. You can also click on the link in the description of this podcast to leave us a voice message, be it a question or suggestion or feedback. We'd like to hear from you guys. Maybe we can even feature one of you guys in an episode through these voice recordings. So we hope you participate. Once again, thank you for listening to us. Give us some good ratings if you would like.
Spread the love. Let other people
um,
know we're here.
exactly. Let people know that they can listen to two guys dish it out as Nintendo and Sony fanboys as they are. It's a good brawl. We promise nothing and give you the world. And Yeah, that is it from me. I have been your host for today, Maximilian X,
And I've been your other host, Sean Templar.
and we're signing off E3 Day 1, and have a good one.
Bye.